burn hot, a lot longer than coal. Rock solid, a lot harder than stone. No need to go on, you all already know. I'm on a roll like a hot dog is, and I won't stop until the sky fall, bitch. God know I got a lot more wit than that improv show when I stop going with it. Hard hitting, lyrical bars next with a wrong rhythm. Better than dealing with corset, alcoholics in the middle of a long trip. I'm not Hitler, but this is sicker than Auschwitz. Hey yo, I packed the pip and the ball swift, mixing the haze with the cushion, it all lifts me. Take a trip to space if you want with me, but any minute now he's gonna fall quickly. The ground hits hard, but as long as I'm airborne, I'ma spit bars, and as long as your ears work, I'ma keep going. Weed's no longer in my bloodstream flowing. Hip-hop's a basic need, honestly.
In this guide, I'll be going over how to play Malphite from the jungle as a tank. His jungle is decent. It's not great, but it's pretty good. Decent clear times. He is very blue dependent, so that's something to take into account. Don't pick him if you're against a really good counter jungler. His ganks are pretty good, I'd say above average. And this is how I built him. Runes. I use armor penetration quint, and this is for faster jungle clear times, in addition to a little bit more damage during ganks. My reds are attack speed, and so are my blues. The attack speed helps clear the jungle quickly. It also helps you proc the slow on red buff during ganks. And I use flat armor, yellows, to keep my health up while jungling. The masteries that I use are 9, 12, 9. Extra damage to minions, a little bit bonus AD, attack speed and armor penetration. Over here I've got Summoner's Resolve for extra 10 gold on Smite, Tough Skin and Bladed Armor to increase his jungle clear time even more, 6 points in armor. Malphite's E does scale with armor, so anytime you get armor, you are going to be doing more damage. For this reason, Malphite's best against teams with at least 2, preferably 3 or more AD characters. Health per level and flat health. Over here we've got Summoner's Insight for a flash, Good Hands to reduce my death time, mana per level, mana regen, and Runic Affinity to hold on to blue and red for as long as possible. As far as summoner spells go, I take 1 point in Smite, 1 point in Flash. Smite's good for securing jungle buffs and increasing your jungle clear time. Flash is always great. You can use Flash to escape. If your ultimate is up, you can actually flash away over a wall and ult over a second wall. You can also flash towards an opponent who's out of position and then ult them to catch them. I do start with a Vampiric Scepter. I used to do cloth armor in 5 pots, but I found that after the jungle remake, I was actually finishing the jungle with like 4 potions. And so I realized that I didn't need the potions, and I can rush Wriggle's Lantern faster by starting with the Vampiric Scepter. In addition, because I have 6 points in armor from masteries and armor yellows, I don't necessarily need the armor from the cloth armor. Now I should have let my shield recharge. Well, you see it actually did recharge during the leash, and it's very important to let that shield recharge in between camps. That's the key to keeping your health up in the jungle as Malphite. In addition, I'm also going to be using my E, Ground Slam, which I start with between auto attacks. That helps maximize your DPS for the fastest possible jungle clear time. And as of the jungle remake late November 2011, I find that the quickest route is Wolves, Blue, Wraiths, Wolves, Red, Golems. And I'll show you that route right now. Your second skill is going to be Brutal Strikes, and it's important that you activate Brutal Strikes before Ground Slam. Reason being is that Brutal Strikes will increase your armor and Ground Slam skills with armor. So if you've got Brutal Strikes active before you Ground Slam, it's going to put out a little more damage. So once again, we're going to let that shield come back up, head over to Wolves. And as far as builds go, you want to go Mercury Treads because you will be playing the role of tank, and I find it's helpful to rush Wriggle's Lantern. A lot of people say it's not as good as it used to be, but on Malphite it's a little better because his E does scale with armor, and it does provide some armor. In addition, it really helps you fly through Dragon quickly, so you can take advantage of those smaller openings. So, a second point in his E, Ground Slam. Once again, proc brutal strikes, boom, ground slam, hit him again. And they do not have a jungler, so I'm blowing my smite basically as soon as possible to get that gold advantage, so smite can be off cooldown as soon as possible. But it is better to save your smite for the killing blow on blue and red. The reason being is you don't want to get those stolen. If you accidentally blow smite a little too early on those buffs, you could very well see the enemy come in and just use their smite on them, and you're out of luck. At this point, I'm watching the lanes for ganks. Top is a 2v1, so I'm probably going to head up there, see what I can do against those guys, hopefully help top win his lane. And your role as a jungler varies. You do want to be focused on farming, and you also want to be focused on helping your lanes win. Some junglers like Saint Vicious are very well known for staying in that jungle and farming up as much as possible, whereas some junglers like Odd1 are very well known for really focusing on helping their lanes win. It's important that you find a happy medium between those two that helps fit your playstyle. Now, as a jungler, you should be prepared to have to hold your lanes for your teammates, which is fine. It does give you a little bit of extra XP. You also want to make sure to ward up for your team. That's a helpful thing that you can do, especially before the support does get her GP5 items. Now, I do have enough gold for boots and my Wriggles lantern, and I'm going to leave red buff in the jungle until after I shop. The reason is it doesn't last forever, and I do want to use that red buff for ganks, so by leaving it in the jungle and shopping before I get that buff, I can make sure that it's useful for as long as possible. Now, once you have your boots and your ultimate, you're a very formidable force. Combined with that red buff, you can basically slow them permanently, and you've got your Q, which is an additional slow, as well as your ultimate, which is a knockup. And so you have a lot of control, especially early to mid game once you get that ultimate. Now, don't forget that Malphite's Q, Seismic Shard, does steal move speed from your opponents, so you want to be queuing the fastest opponent on their team. Now, your Q is great for getting away and for chasing. So you can Q an enemy, and that's going to slow him down, and it's going to speed you up, and that allows your teammates to get into position more easily. Now, when your ultimate's up early to mid game, that's a great time to be looking for dragon or for ganks. The reason being is that your ultimate is great for interrupting an enemy team who tries to do dragon. It's also great for counter-initiating when you get initiated on while doing dragon. I like to use Malphite's ult in 3 ways. One way is to catch people out of position, such as a straggler. I also like to use it to reset fights in the middle of a team fight rather than using it to initiate. If I do use it to initiate, I'm using it to go past the tank and to hit the squishy in the back. Now, as far as items go, there are a few paths that I like to take. I almost always start with Wriggles Lantern and Boots. However, if you have a mid lane such as Heimer who's very blue dependent, I would recommend getting a Frozen Heart. Because you're not going to have that blue, but you're probably still going to want some mana for your mana pool. However, if your mid does not need blue, then you can go with a Randuin's Omen as your main armor item and still get blue. Once you finish that primary armor item, be it Frozen Heart or Randuin's Omen, it's probably time to start building magic resist, especially if the enemy's got 2 or more AP damage characters. So you can see I've already got my Negatron cloak. I'm going to start building a Frozen Heart, and after that I'm probably going to want some help. If you do go with Frozen Heart, then for your magic resist item, I would go with Banshee's Veil, because it has a little bit of health, which is always great. Your passive shield does scale with health. However, if you went with Randuin's Omen, then you can go with Force of Nature as your primary magic resist item, because Randuin's Omen is going to provide you with that little bit of health that's useful. Another great armor item to consider on Malphite, if you don't need the slow and attack speed slow from Randuin's Omen or Frozen Heart, would be a Sunfire Cape. Now, usually Sunfire Cape falls off pretty hard by late game, but in this case, you're not only paying for the health and the armor, you're also paying for extra points on your shield, and you're paying for extra damage on your ground slam. So for that reason, Sunfire Cape is exceptionally better on Malphite than it is on other characters. Now don't forget that Malphite's Q steals speed from them and gives it to you, so you want to be Qing the fastest enemy. Head over, wait for he pops out, use my Q on him. That was bad.